You know that sinking feeling? You're standing right next to someone, you know you should say something, but your brain completely shuts down. So you default to, "How's your day?" They give you a one-word answer, and suddenly you're both standing there in painful silence, wishing you were anywhere else. Most of us assume we're failing because we aren't interesting enough. We think the problem is a lack of wit or a shortage of fascinating stories. But the actual friction comes from treating the other person like a computer that needs a specific input command. You're asking them to process a data entry task. This flowchart shows the mental strain of a generic question. You've just forced them to calculate an interesting answer, creating a bottleneck of performance pressure. It's a mental load that causes most people to simply shut down. The people who seem naturally charismatic aren't using magic to avoid this. They've simply swapped this high-pressure strategy for something else. Standard small talk fails because it feels like an interview. It's a demand for information rather than an invitation to talk. To drop that pressure, you have to stop asking questions and start making observations. Instead of asking, "What are you reading?" look at the book itself. You might say, "That book looks like it's survived a few coffee spills." Sharing a detail you noticed removes the requirement for them to explain themselves. It replaces a demand with curiosity, letting them engage on their own terms. However, this isn't about reporting the obvious. Boring observations like "nice weather" or "cool shirt" don't actually give the other person anything to work with. While those are technically facts, they are dead ends. They don't spark curiosity or invite the other person to tell you more. A magnetic observation requires 3 layers: specificity, slight exaggeration, and implied story. Specificity means noticing precise details. Instead of "nice shoes," notice they could survive a zombie apocalypse. Next, slight exaggeration adds playful energy without feeling fake. Instead of telling a coworker they look exhausted, say they look like they just realized their coffee was decaf. Finally, the implied story layer hints at a larger narrative, creating a natural opening for them to share. If you notice a laptop covered in stickers, you aren't just looking at plastic, you're looking at someone whose computer has clearly seen some adventures. When you stack these layers, you're no longer just making a comment, you are painting a playful picture that the other person actually wants to respond to. They'll naturally want to confirm your theory or correct the story, which draws them into the dialogue without them ever feeling pressured to perform. To pull all of this together instantly, you only need one 3-word phrase. I bet that. I bet that coffee saved your morning. I bet that book choice has a story. I bet that presentation was a marathon. This phrase is a tool for your own brain. When you start a sentence with "I bet that," you are forced to look for a specific, interesting detail to finish the thought. It acts as the bridge. It moves the interaction from a quiet observation in your head into an active conversation thread that the other person can easily follow. But here's the secret. The goal of this isn't to prove that you are interested. The real goal is to be interested. This framework shifts the entire focus away from your own performance and onto the person standing right in front of you. When you use this approach, the anxiety of small talk disappears. You aren't just filling silence anymore. You're making the people around you feel truly seen and understood.